All right, folks. Sorry for the delay. For some reason, my internet is not wanting to participate or cooperate. Is the word? Maybe yeah. The heat could have something to do with it. It's very warm. It's very warm today, and a little. And I don't know if it feels this way to you, but it feels a little muggy. Okay. Yeah. Oh, great. Now your screen is frozen. At least on this end. Let me try this window. No, your audio's not coming through either. Jeez. It's not one thing, it's another. I don't know. Alright, hold on. I'm gonna hang up and call back on Rob. Hang up. Call again. Nope, that didn't do shit. No, I don't know why. Hold on, I'll just open up a new Windows source for you. That's a very good question. Okay. There you are. Anyway, continue on with what you were.
No, well, so my whole point is that I wish our conservatives would stop just uh when anyone like on the left like deviates slightly and is like actually says something um true or smart, and it's like, yeah, they're one of us. Yes, it's like, no, they're not. Yes, they made a good point, and you can applaud them for that, but don't they're not on your side. So stop, stop rewarding them with that. And same thing with the whole Bruce Jenner thing. It's like, let's not it's, oh, he's the Democrats, they're the real transphobes. It's like, you've already lost the argument by like saying that like this is a really good candidate, this is who we should vote for. It's like, no. And you listen to him, it's like it's the same old. He's at best a squish Republican rhino that is just like, forget it. Like, it's just. Uh, but I don't want to talk about that today. I want to have some fun.
All right. Yeah, no. It's where is it? It's like that. It's like it's what they kind of tell people in like recovery, like AA or Gamblers Anonymous. They're not, or particularly in Gamblers Anonymous, they're not. They don't continue to gamble because they think they're gonna win, but they're addicted to the losing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Republicans are. Like,
That,
they're addicted. They're addicted to the losing.
as we said, we're the Washington Generals.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what is it? I mean, even Donald Trump Jr., he put out that meme of, the assistant, HHS secretary,
Mm-hmm.
what is it, Rachel Levine,
Oh
and
God.
then it's like they're, what is it? It's so stupid because like liberal girls, and then they put like Caitlyn Jenner You know, it's like versus conservative girls. Like what?
I wonder.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that meme, but I was just like, what? Why would you do that? You're like tanking all of the ground that you guys gained under Trump. You know, especially amongst the Hispanic population.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, normally, and maybe it is like somewhat of a troll on for both sides, because I know there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that hate Trump and his family. So maybe it's a poking fun at all that, but because normally I'm like Donald Trump Jr. like he makes some good points. Like he's not he doesn't seem as squishy as Ivanka Trump.
Right.
No pun
Yeah,
intended.
I mean, yeah, because Ivanka Trump is basically a liberal, or she's a 19 like late 90s era like Democrat.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's all. I mean, that's what she is. I mean, she like to call her like a purely conservative person is inaccurate.
she's not. But anyways, it's just like so. I'm hoping that was a troll, but God, if not, it's like man, you're part of the problem. It's like, I mean, Bruce Jenner looks like fucking Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh yeah. Like, oh, would you fuck me? I fuck me.
I gotta watch that movie again, to be honest. I haven't.
I know. I mean, I saw it. So I saw it when I was a child, literally. Because again, because again, very lack supervision on the part of like my older cousins and such. So yeah, I saw Silence of the Lambs as a very young child.
I probably saw it when I was like 8 or 9. Like I saw it really. It's like, why was I watching that movie at that age?
Yeah, I mean, I was like probably a 7, so that would make you like 5 or something at the time.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, but I was like, but luckily I was so young, I didn't know what I was watching, so I couldn't like fully understand it.
That
But
might be a
yeah,
movie that we need to review at some point. Like now that we're older and we can look at it in a critical lens, because Anthony Hopkins is brilliant as an actor.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love that. Did you? I follow him on Instagram. He is so fucking hilarious.
oh, dude, he's very funny. I love Anthony Hopkins. Another movie I want to watch of his too is The Edge.
Yes. Yes, we have to find. Yeah, we have to find. Maybe we should just do an Anthony Hopkins month.
Well, it's funny that you bring this up, because I've been wanting to do like more where we like are, because we've been doing a lot of like particular theme months, with like, oh, we're doing westerns, we're doing noir films, we're doing this and that, which is great. I love doing that, but I think next year we should do more where we focus on like a particular actor, because we get a lot of like some of these guys are in various different genres, especially the really great actors.
Right.
So being able to highlight an actor's work, either from the past or like modern actors who have a large body of work to work with, I think that would be great. And Anthony Hopkins is definitely deserving of us to talk about him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, something to
like for a movie like, and he's like what, like in his 80s now?
Either late 80s or early 90s. He's super fucking old. I mean, he forgoed the Oscars this year, because he didn't want to travel. I mean, I don't blame the guy. I mean, he wants to come, to LA and like, hobnob with, assholes and, and the poor. But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he's really up there. Well, let me look it up real fast. See how old he is.
Yeah, because I feel like because he was kind of old, like when in like the 90s, and I was like, God, he's still alive. It's like, so he's got to be really old now.
Let's see. Oh yeah, he's a early '80s. He's '83.
Okay, yeah, that's
Oh yeah, so
but
I
still,
was
like, I mean,
mistaken.
you're winning an Oscar in your 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's a good actor right there.
Mm.
That guy has not lost a step at all.
No, not at all.
But yeah, well, maybe we should definitely do an Anthony Hopkins month. I'd definitely be down for that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of old actors, we get to, kind of, I think, a good transition to one of our topics today is, celebrating. It was yesterday, but celebrating the birthday of the great Clint Eastwood.
Yep. He's my favorite feminist.
Dude, there are so many movies where Clint Eastwood like punches out a woman, and it is
Mm-hmm.
always amazing.
I know, right?
Now the best one, because I was on Twitter yesterday, and everyone's talking about Clint Eastwood. He was trending yesterday, and everyone wanting to discuss like his favorite films, and I'm kind of shocked that no one talked about one of my favorites, which was Play Misty for Me, which we reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end scene of that one, where he punches out, like, the woman is the bad guy in the film,
Right.
where she is just awful, and he
Uh-huh.
just sticks her right in the nose and knocks her off the ledge to kill her.
Yeah.
It's great, and, you know, but that's not the only movie that he that he does that.
I wonder if
But
that's written into his contract that he's like, I gotta punch a woman.
yeah, well, it's funny.
Well, Play Misty for Me. That's also his directorial debut, right? So he could do
Right,
a fuck you
right.
on.
It was, and that's a movie not a lot of people talk about. I
Right,
think
and
it's
I
really
think
good.
that's maybe where Fatal Attraction, or
I liked it more than Fatal Attraction, actually.
well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they drew inspiration from that movie.
They
Um,
definitely did, because that one
yeah.
was it 71 is when Play Misty for Me came out. I think that's when
Mhm.
it came out. It was
Mhm.
definitely in the 70s. But
Yeah.
then Fatal Attraction was what, in the like 80s, and which is a
Like
good
late
movie.
'80s, early '90s.
I have to say though, Glenn Close kind of woof.
Mm. Yeah, because I've never seen her like.
Great, great
It's
actress.
funny because it's she. I would describe her similarly to how I would describe Morgan Freeman. You never see a young Morgan Freeman. He's just he's just in his earlier stuff he's just less old.
Yeah,
He looks
and
less old. And I think that's how that's how I would describe Glenn Close.
yeah,
I've never seen a young picture of Glenn Close. I've always seen her. I've always seen pictures of her when she was like less old.
yeah. That's a good point. Um, but yeah, I was just like, I mean, Fatal Attraction is a great movie, but yeah, Play Misty for Me is definitely has to be some sort of inspiration for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of people are like, talking about like, oh, my favorite Western, it's Unforgiven, and which is a great movie. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've seen it, Andy. I would disagree. I think one of it's in my top 10 westerns. I mean, I've said it to many times before now. Is like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is still the best western in my opinion. Followed very closely by the movie that we're going to review today. But no, Clint Eastwood is in he's been in a lot of great movies. He's directed a lot of great movies. What are some? Do you have any particular favorites that you really enjoy of his?
Um. Hmm. Man, talk about your Sophie's choice.
It doesn't have to be one. It can be like a few of them that you really enjoy.
Uh, well, I mean, obviously, I really liked Dirty Harry, the first
Yeah,
one.
same.
Um, what else?
My grandfather constantly quoted from the first Dirty Harry film. It was, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's actually how I got introduced. Is because my grandfather because he loved Clint Eastwood,
Uh-huh.
and we would constantly watch Dirty Harry,
Uh-huh.
and because my grandparents, when they were alive, they were gun collectors, and
Mm.
my grandmother bought she bought the gun
44
that,
Magnum.
yeah, which is, and she was a short woman. She was like 4'5", and
Oh
you see
wow,
her.
that's short.
She has this picture with that gun, and like she had the
Uh-huh.
holster. That gun's like half her size. I mean,
Right.
it's a
Yeah, it's
fucking
like if to your grandma, it's like a
cannon.
literal hand cannon.
Yeah, it is a cannon, and to be honest, that is one gun I cannot wait to shoot. I really want to. I want to go to the gun range and shoot that gun, just
Mm-hmm.
to see like what it's like, because
Mm-hmm.
it's scary. Yeah, I watched my grandmother shoot it. I was too young, so I didn't have enough strength to handle that weapon.
Yeah, the
I would
recoil.
love today to like go and shoot that gun, or and I think the last, either the penultimate or the last Dirty Harry film, he has the Colt 44 Auto Mag, which is a very rare gun. But that gun is awesome too.
Oh, I think that was the one before. Yeah, because Deadpool is the last one,
Right, with Liam
and then
Neeson.
yeah, and so yeah, it was just and I think we watched that one.
That's
The
right.
one with the one with the chick that's going on that
That's
vendetta
right.
thing,
And
kind of like Kill Bill.
yes. Oh, dude, that movie that's a great movie too. That was
Yeah,
Magnum Force. That
yeah,
was the
Magnum Force. That's right. But yeah, the other Clint Eastwood movie that I really enjoy, uh, it's it's not appreciated as much, but I just fucking love the one-liners in this movie. But it is a Heartbreak Ridge.
I have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, well, he plays like like this the grizzled old like veteran gunnery sergeant that that whips into shape like this ragtag group of Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just like the one-liners in this movie are just so great. It's like like during one of their missions, like he's like caught in like an explosion, and like he's knocked out, and like one of the soldier one of the soldiers like he's like, oh, Gunny, wake up. He's like trying to wake him up, and then like he kind of he kind of opens one eye, and it's like don't expect us to be taking warm showers together anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's just like yeah, just like his like old school kind of like you know don't give a shit, and you're gonna do things how I want to do it, or I'll kick your ass kind of attitude. It's just so great. I love it so much.
Oh yeah.
Again, it's not like super realistic because it's like because he's his character is a recon marine, and he's tasked with getting into shape this group of recon marines, and like the way that these guys act is just like kind of preposterous. Like you would not think that they were Marines, or like they were like because recon Marines is kind of like the special forces of the Marines.
That's right. Yeah.
And so yeah, so but the way that they behave, it's like no way. This like it kind of breaks the reality a little bit.
It's both like ridiculous and awesome at the same time. Is that like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like because he comes in and he's like it kind of it's kind of like every kind of feel good movie about this teacher that comes in and like helps a group of troubled youth get their act together and things like it's like that, but imagine with like Clint Eastwood.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm down. I've that's been coming across my timeline a little bit more, so
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to add that to the backlog of movies that I have so many movies I have on my list right now.
Mm-hmm.
But of the like obviously we did Fistful of Dollars last week.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like the sequel more. I
Mm-hmm.
really like A Few Dollars More. I think that's the better. To be honest, I think that's the better movie. I mean, and then The Good, Bad, and the Ugly is great too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Dirty Harry is great. I love all five of them. The original to me is always going to be the best, but they're all good. Um, I like what else did I watch of his that I like? I mean, obviously, like his directorial debut, Play Misty for Me, I think is a fantastic movie that no one talks about. No one talks about that movie at all, and it's really good. Uh,
Mm.
Great thriller.
Yeah, and maybe also maybe they don't know about it, and like, and I think so many people are aware of his, him as an actor, as an older man, that they don't realize that his debut, like his directorial debut, was way before. Because I'm thinking a lot of people think that what was it, like $1 Million Baby was his directorial debut, but it
No,
wasn't.
no. He'd been directing movies long before that because he directed one of the Dirty Harrys. I think the Magnum. It was either the third or the fourth one. It was either Magnum Force or the one that came before that. Was
Mm-hmm.
he directed one of those?
Mm-hmm.
He did. I think he directed Hang 'Em High as well. So I mean, he's been directing since like the early '70s. After his rise to fame with the Man with No Name series,
Mm-hmm.
he made a lot of money from those movies, and
Mm-hmm.
he pretty much was able to pick and choose the things that he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he uh, he started stuff, he directed and started stuff. I mean, he did it all. And I think, to be honest, I actually really like him as a director. Um, $1 Million Baby, which I haven't seen in a while, which that might be another movie to rewatch at some point. That's a good
Mm-hmm.
movie.
I don't think I've
Um,
ever watched. No, I don't, no, I haven't watched $1 Million Baby.
it's been a while. I remember watching it like when it first came out, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been so long where it's kind of, and that's a time like I'm just watching movies to just for the hell of it. Um, so I wasn't really like looking at it critically. What happened, Andy?
I read something wrong.
You read
Okay, it doesn't.
something?
Yeah, something for the OBS and what is it? Yeah, just something for the OBS, and then it just closed it down. But it doesn't seem to have affected the stream. So,
Okay. Oh, then all right.
although yeah, your window's been frozen for a while, but yeah, I thought it
You
would
can hear
fix
me.
itself.
Everything is it recording at least?
It is recording, so.
All right. Well, then that's all right. We'll deal with it.
Okay.
Um.
Anyways, continue.
No, and then even as an old man too, like Clint Eastwood has put out some really good movies. Like Gran Torino is great. And then I really
Yeah, I'm
liked.
actually at the time I didn't really appreciate it all that much, but now I do kind of appreciate it more for what he was trying to do, as opposed to you know kind of, what is it? What am I trying to say? Um, not so much complaining what he did as opposed to, like, seeing what he meant to do.
It's funny. I That's a movie I think I need to watch with Joyce, because with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
because the I remember I was helping her out with one of her, I don't know for what class it was for that she was in, but she was reading some like leftist claptrap about the people, like the Asian, that like Hmong group, or whatever,
Uh-huh.
that people group. And
Uh-huh.
I was reading it, it's like, you know what? It's like Clint Eastwood's character was right. Gran Torino is a great movie. Where he's pretty much like, get off my lawn, you goddamn zipper heads. It's like, it's kind of like, something like crazy like that. It's like, that's a movie I think that she should watch, because reading that book that she had to read, I was like, because she was like, I don't understand this. Can you help me with it? And then I ended up having to read it. I'm like, fuck, dude, I hate myself that I had to read this crap.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's a movie I need to rewatch too. I haven't seen that in a while. But I really liked the Mule. And he's obviously he's an
Yeah,
old.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Neil was
and
great.
he was great.
Uh-huh.
And kind of like we were talking about, like Anthony Hopkins, where Clint Eastwood's been acting forever. He's
Mm-hmm.
been doing stuff forever, and even at like, I mean, now he's 91, but like even in like his like late 80s, he's gonna come out with a movie this year. He's gonna be in another movie this year. He's in his 90s, like, and that's and
Yeah,
to be
wait,
honest,
is he older than... No, he can't be older than Anthony Hopkins.
he's 90. He was born in 1930.
Clint Eastwood was?
Yeah.
So he's old. So Clint Eastwood is older than... Oh, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah, he's 91 years old.
Damn. Clint Eastwood is older than fucking Anthony Hopkins.
I know it kind of like threw me for a loop too.
Holy shit.
But he is he's gonna he I was looking up because I was kind of looking up his filmography. He's coming
Mm-hmm.
out with this year. He's gonna be in a
Right.
movie this year, which is like
Good
wow.
for him.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's been acting since the early 50s, so I mean, he's been churning. He's been putting out movies for 70 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah, wow. Good for him.
I forget what the movie title is, but I'm already interested. I'm just because the guy is, he's I think he's an underrated actor.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you talk about the greats, everyone kind of talks about, there's this guy, there's that guy, but like, Clint Eastwood kind of like, falls a little bit under the radar a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing is like, I think people feel like, maybe he's like a little bit typecast, like, oh, he's kind of the curmudgeonly old man, or he's the Western star, or this, like, but it's like he actually has put out a he's acted in a variety of different movies, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different genres. He was in Paint Your Wagon. He was in a musical. He was
Yeah.
in I wouldn't necessarily call them like straight up like comedies, but he's been in roles where he's funny, uh,
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally funny. He's been in
Mm-hmm.
action movies. He's been in dramas. So he's kind of done it all, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the guy gets enough credit.
No, yeah. Fuck. Yeah, there was a movie that I saw of Clint Eastwood's, and I remember being genuinely surprised by the performance. Um, I just can't remember what the movie was.
Um, yeah, we'll have to do a Clint Eastwood month at some point. Like maybe
Uh,
I know we have that we had the the idea to do the Death Wish versus Dirty Harry, which I think is
mm,
definitely something we should do.
mm,
Um, and we'll do that at some point. But doing a dedicated Clint Eastwood month is definitely something that we should do.
agreed.
But I don't really have. I was just like I didn't. God, it's funny like what you were saying. It's like God, he's older than Anthony Hopkins, and because I was looking it up. It was it's his birthday. It's like holy shit, he's 90 years old, and he's still producing work. He's still doing projects. He's still keeping busy, and maybe that's the secret to his longevity too. It's just that he's enjoying what he's doing. He's enjoying life. He's acting, which is something that acting, directing, stuff that he really enjoys. And the great thing, if people talk about like people who've been in his movies, they're like, yeah, Clint Eastwood, like when it's like it's a take, and that's it's just pretty much like like I'm not gonna why do we need to do like 20 takes? Just do one, or at most two.
Mm-hmm.
um I was actually listening to I forgot the name of this movie. It was a Clint Eastwood movie that Joseph Gordon-Levitt starred in, and he was talking about, it's like, yeah, Clint, like, he just like he didn't want to do a lot of takes. Oh no, it wasn't Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Who was it? It was somebody, and he was talking about, it's like, yeah, like I was like, can I do another take? It's like, okay, it's like, normally it's like one take is like, yeah, that was great, perfect, normally the directors that do that, it's usually like the crappy like B movies that, it's like they have no budget. It's like, I don't
Right.
have
So
enough.
okay, on to the next scene.
No, but like, I think what it is that Clint Eastwood is already prepared when he's there.
Uh
He knows
huh.
exactly what he's looking for,
Uh
and
huh.
it's like he's already like put everything in motion. So it's like, once it's done, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. We're done.
Mhm.
So that's, I think that's kind of like, and he's the guy that kind of does it right. Where, there's a lot of guys where it's like, yeah, we don't have enough film, so that's good enough. And I've
Right.
watched a bunch
No,
of.
it kind of reminds me of Gene Hackman because what is it? Owen Wilson was giving like an interview, and it was about the time that that Owen Wilson and Gene Hackman worked together on that movie Behind Enemy Lines.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
And what was it? He said, yeah, when Hackman was kind of in the same, had the same school of thought as Eastwood, where it's like, like there's no time for like, don't, he's one of those like whatever's on the page, that's what I have to deliver. And he was like a no nonsense kind of actor, and it's like whatever's on the page is what what I'm gonna put out. And so there's like,
I like
so he wasn't like, so Gene Hackman isn't like known for like his abiding of like ad libs.
Yeah.
So like so and I think that's why, and I think you can see it in Owen Wilson's like more restrained performance, at least in the ones where like they're physically together.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've seen so many, like, there's so many actors where I'm like, and I like all of them, but their process is so different. Yeah, like you have the guys like Gene Hackman, no nonsense, like, hey, this is what's on the script, this is what I'm gonna read. You get prepared and you know your lines and don't fuck around. Then you have
Mm-hmm.
like other guys like Ed Norton, who's like trying to rewrite the script as the movie's going along. It's like, no, I think we can do it better.
Yeah.
It's also great. And then you have,
Like, does he have to use this preposition? It's like,
and then Christian
yeah, I
Bale.
mean, yeah, Edward Norton has like that reputation where like he like really scrutinizes something, and it's like, yeah, does it have to be this article? Like, can't we, use some sort of suppositional like phrasing? It's like, just read the page, Norton.
Yeah, and then you have Christian Bale, who actually physically becomes the character on the script,
Yeah.
and then it's like,
Right. Yeah, like in Fighter, he literally became a crack addict. Or in 310 to Yuma, he really cut off his leg.
Yeah. Edward Norton. It's funny. Because I bought it. Obviously I listened to a lot of people say, oh, he's such an asshole. Like, people don't like working with him, all this sort of stuff. But then I did watch the interview that he did with Joe Rogan, and like he finally, like, he kind of like, I felt like we got to see the real Ed Norton. Like, he's not putting on airs about anything. And I was like, you know what? I get where he's coming from. Yes, he can be kind of a pain in the ass to work with, but I also see where he's coming from. And I was like, okay, I can respect, and because I think he's a great actor. And I was like, okay, I see, I see why people hate him, but like, I don't think that he deserves the hatred that he gets.
Right.
Because obviously, like, one of the more famous incidents is when he was playing Bruce Banner in the one of the very first Marvel cinematic universe movies. He's trying to, like, I want to do this and this, and like, let's change this up, and they're telling us like, fuck you, Ed, read the goddamn lines, play the character,
Hit your marks. Play. Hit the marks. Read the goddamn lines and get your paycheck.
Yeah, it's like we have this all set up like for something that we're doing, And he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And so that's why, like, you get Mark Ruffalo now, who is now, like, he's Bruce Banner. He's the Hulk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that's the
it doesn't even matter that, you know, he hasn't even had a solo film. But yeah, I mean, now Mark Ruffalo, he's the Hulk. He's Bruce Banner.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forget that it's like, actually, no, it was Edward Norton that was actually the Hulk until he pissed off Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, what is it? When he did American History X, like the director was like so fed up with him that I think he walked off, and then I think the studio asked Edward Norton to like edit and stuff like that, the movie,
Yep,
and
that's right.
and the director has like to this day that director doesn't claim that American History X. So that's not my movie.
That's a movie I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I need to watch that movie.
Yeah, I remember at the time I really liked it. And because partially because I was still under like the brainwashing from the indoctrination centers, but yeah, I like to take a look at it again with a more critical eye. I mean, I have to say again, okay, before everyone loses their fucking mind, I'm not, condoning like white supremacy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's one of those things like where I feel like we have to like give all the, like no, we're not, like claiming.
I mean, we're talking to the stupid people here, so
exactly.
Yeah,
well, it's the same thing when we did Birth of a Nation. It's like
right.
we can appreciate the movie for what it is,
right.
And for like.
Although interestingly enough, that episode is ranked pretty high on like the popular list.
Yeah.
So.
That's great.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think a lot of people should watch that movie just for the sake of like, it's like, don't be afraid to like watch movies that are like, quote unquote controversial. It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean that you approve of their message that they're trying to go for. There's a lot of movies that like we watch that we like don't agree with the message, but it's like it's
yeah.
Still, like,
I mean, it's similar to being pissed off at Michelangelo. Because he was one of his patrons was the Medici family, and the Medici family had ties to funding the slave trade.
That's
So it's like why if you're mad about slavery and all that, why aren't you pissed off at the Medici family, or why aren't you pissed off at Michelangelo, who took money from the Medici family, who probably made that money from the slave trade?
Yeah. It's that's what I'm saying.
But again, people are stupid, and that's why we have to do these stupid disclaimers.
Yeah.
About things.
Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I at this point, like, I've gotten to the point where like I'm old enough where I just like, yeah, you know what, I don't really give a fuck anymore. Just if you're like already like saying, oh, you're a racist, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna change your mind anyways, so whatever.
Well, funny that they mention racist, or the kind of pejorative use of the word racist, because again, I haven't independently verified this, but I trust the source, and what is it, like, the term racist first came from this army general who was like kind of like the overseer or the commandant of this school for American Indians. It was literally an indoctrination school or center, because they're trying to teach Western values, or and things like in Western ideas and things like that at the school, so that the American Indians would kind of lose their culture or heritage. And he was actually the one to come up with the pejorative racist to describe people who didn't want to let go of their of their culture or heritage.
So the original idea behind that word was people who people who didn't want to give up like what was their you know their culture or heritage.
Mm-hmm.
That was the origin of racism.
Yeah, not that
That's interesting.
not that you thought that your race was superior to other races. It's just that that you actually appreciated your own culture and or heritage.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people think like it was a modern the word racist was a modern invention like in the 20th century, but no, it was actually in the 19th century, like in the late 18 or sometime around the 1880s.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, again, I haven't independently verified this claim, but again, I trust the source.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like when you're looking at like words and stuff like that, it's like yeah, that's not what that word means. But then like
Mm-hmm.
it's weird how definitions or perceptions of words change over time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's not what that word means. But you say if you shout it loud enough, it's like oh well, I guess
But
that's the
yeah, but
definition.
it's like, but it doesn't even mean what they're saying. But it's so if I ever get called that, I'll be like, well, thank you. I do appreciate my heritage. I do appreciate my culture. I understand that I am someone of two cultures, but seeing as I live in a dominant culture, i.e., the West, I am going to advocate for that culture. Because
I'm glad you
as great
agree.
as Korean culture is, Korean culture also kind of sucks. I mean, you can say that about Western culture too, but
Yeah.
in the specific context of me, literally being born here, being an American citizen. Being an American, it's funny because like my parents like kind of tease me and say like, "Oh, you're such an American," and it's because, because
Like, well, thank you.
because yeah, well, thank you. Well, that's accurate because I am an American. I was born here. I was raised here. Whatever vestigial things that are Korean of me are actually from you. Um, so you know, uh, you can't blame me for being more, Western or more American. Seeing as we live in America in a Western dominant culture, surrounded by American, white people.
Yes,
Um,
it's funny because we're kind of similar in a way. Yes, obviously, like I'm not like Korean myself, but
mhm.
yeah, I'm an American. But I'm so connected to like Koreans in my life that it's kind of the same thing where it's like obviously I'm married to a Korean. Most of my friends are Korean, and that's just the community I grew up with.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just but that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look up, kind of like what you said. I want to verify that because that's fascinating.
Mhm.
And if that really does change the game when it comes to like that word,
Mhm.
uh, and I guarantee that like 99.9% of society, doesn't even understand like what they're just you have people like oh race I'm not a racist. It's like well it's like the word is already being used wrong to begin
Mhm. I know. It'd be like, um, all of a sudden, motorcycle meant watermelon.
with. Yeah.
It's people started just using, instead of using the word watermelon, they just started calling it motorcycle. It's like, oh man, that motorcycle sure looks juicy.
Well,
It's like,
was it because a book that I'm actually looking at, interested in purchasing is Michael Knowles is coming out with a book called it's called Speechless, changing words, changing minds, and it's
mm-hmm,
the idea of like when you start changing the definitions of words, it
mm-hmm,
really fucks with like the mentality of people, and it changes the culture in a bad way, in a lot of ways, and
right,
the first time I really started to understand, uh, you know, I mean, obviously, I think I've always understood it, but like where I was really very kind of like where it really kind of solidified in my mind was actually not in a political sense, but it was more of in a theological sense where I was what was it at the school that I first started at what was it no, sorry, it was at King's University. We because every year we would have a week where we would have to gather and listen to missionaries that had been out in the field. And one of the guys is a missionary in Utah, and he's a missionary to the Mormon community.
Mm-hmm.
And he says one of the problems is because Mormonism is a Christian cult
Mm-hmm.
where they're using the same words that we would. So you could talk to a Mormon and use the same language that we would, like if we're talking to you and I discussing Christianity, and they would say, yeah, okay, great. But the reality is that the words that we're using mean something different to the Mormons, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same definition of the word.
Right.
So when you have to like almost like kind of like understand their definitions, where you have to define the definitions. Okay, like when I say this, what do you think that means? And you almost have to. You can't just use your knowledge. You have to kind of like look at it where it's like, okay, I say this word, but what does it mean to you? Where are you coming from? And that's the reality in a lot of ways, where you have people that are, you might use the same language, but then for someone like us, like, yeah, there's no problem. But then to someone else, they're like, wow, this is terrible. Why would you say something like this? Like, okay, well, what does this word mean to you? Like, why is this so um, why do you have this visceral reaction when I say this word?
Right. It's just like the word privilege. When you or I say privilege, we understand that to mean like, just an undeserved benefit or advantage.
Yeah.
All right, and that's a completely neutral term, but someone on the left, they hear privilege and it's like, oh,
It's like they're
they they
foaming at the mouth.
they they connote evil with that.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not
foaming
it's
at
not
the mouth.
merely just like, an unearned benefit or advantage. But it's just like, oh, then it gets, it kind of, what's it, um like, what's like, there's all these links to it. So it's like unearned, benefit or advantage, which comes from, and then a link forms as like, oh, because of systems, and it's like, oh, and then systems is like, built, around racism, which another link forms is like because of evil. And so it's not just this one the word privilege isn't just this isolated neutral thing, but it just gets connected to all these other different things.
Yeah,
And it forms like this weird logic tree, for people on the left when they hear words like privilege. Whereas, you or I, we hear privilege like, oh yeah, it is, like, uh, when you meet someone, like that you really admire, and it's like, oh, and you want to thank them for taking time to speak with you. It's like, oh man, this has been a real privilege. Like, yes,
yeah,
this is an unearned or unexpected benefit or advantage. That's it. Yeah, it's like, great. Thank you for the privilege of, speaking with you. But then, yeah, to a leftist, they again have this weird logic tree where it just all, it all goes back to the root of evil. It's like, oh, it's all evil.
yeah. But yeah, it's crazy how I think it's always good. That's why I'm always like, when it comes to something I've been trying to help my wife to understand is like, words mean they're the reason why I didn't appreciate it as a kid, like when my dad like forced me to study vocabulary, but
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely appreciating it now as an adult, where it's like, God, thank God, that happened,
Mm-hmm.
because now I understand words. I know a lot of words. I have a big vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand the definitions, and it's actually, especially nowadays, you know, being accurate with like how you're stating things is very important,
Mm-hmm.
because language has been so perverted in a lot of ways that people are using words, to define things that, like, that's not what that word means, but it's because they've shouted it so many times that people believe that that's the definition of the word, and it's like, no, that's not true, and you're manipulating people in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good to define your terms, to understand the words that you're using, and to carefully craft how you're saying things.
Right. But I guess that's where it becomes a little bit a problem or frustration, because um, those people who are, who lean right or neutral, we just use words. We use words to express ourselves, to convey ideas, to form connections with other people. But when you have when people, like, that, you know and and again, I'm going to be very deliberate with my words, that veer heavily left, not just, and I'm not just talking about, neutral left leaning people, but people who heavily veer left, they are less precise with their words, or they don't care of the destruction that they do cause with their language. And so, and that's why, they seem more like a wrecking ball when they talk, because
Yeah.
they're trying, they don't care, they're kind of, in a weird way, they're kind of like a suicide bomber. It's like it's like mutually assured destruction. It's like, it doesn't matter if they die as long as they take you with them.
It's funny because I think a perfect example of that, and someone that, like, the very heavy left, that, like, they highly tout this guy, but
Mm-hmm.
his language, it's a wrecking ball. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he's a terrible writer.
Mm.
His books suck. I've read some of them just because, it's funny because in because when my wife was in her classes, she was
Mm-hmm.
forced to read some books from Ta-Nehisi Coates, and she's like, I have no idea what the hell this is saying. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh God, you're making me read this garbage. So I was reading this stuff, and it's like, and it's like, oh my God, it's bloviating garbage, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
wrecking ball because people listen to what he has to say,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets all these awards for, like, oh, he's such a great writer. Oh man, he's really put it. He's penned these. It's it's a masterpiece. It's like it's terrible, and it's manipulated language, and it's a suicide bomber essentially.
Yeah, like I said. Yeah, I mean, and that's why the comic books industry is like taking such a hard hit, because a lot of, like, these so-called, activist intellectuals, they infiltrated the culture. They've infiltrated comic books, and that's why, Ta-Nehisi Coates has written for Marvel and DC, similar to Ibram X. Kendi, who supposedly, who wrote one of, like, I mean, again, I'm not a big comic book guy. Um, but from what I hear, like, he wrote, like, the worst run of Black Panther.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
It's
it completely, like, changed the character, or like changed, like, the continuity of the character. Is and then, like, that, and that's why comic book sales, particularly American comic books, have been taking a hit, and actually that's why manga, Japanese comic books, have been kind of overtaking them in popularity, is because the Japanese are fucking based as hell. You know, and
Exactly.
they just write and they just try to write really good stories and not, you know, try to indoctrinate people.
Which is what we've been saying. Just write a fucking good story. It doesn't matter if you have like a certain bent. If you want to like get your point across, just write a good story. Don't write dumb woke shit that
Mm-hmm.
nobody gives a shit about. Because what like Ta-Nehisi Coates, like they had him like writing for like a Captain America comic, which was
Well, yeah,
it.
I think he was either part or responsible for like the Hidden Empire run, where, you know, it turns out that Cap was actually a Hydra sleeper agent. You know, and like the infamous meme of like, you know, at the end of, you know, one of the panels, it has like Captain America saying "Hail Hydra." I think I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that he was responsible, if not
Yeah,
solely responsible for.
it's just like, come on, really. It's just whatever. The guy is a garbage writer. He's a
Mm-hmm.
it's bloviated language. The guy, it's pretty much like his whole thing is like what he does is just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there was this bad thing that happened in like 1790 or 1856, and now today it's the same thing. It's actually worse than it was back then. It's like that's his whole argument. Like everything that he talks about, it's always like there was this event that happened here, and it's happening today. It's the same thing, and it's like, no, actually, it's not. And to be honest, his whole like when he looks at this event from the past, he doesn't actually. It's actually like it's not even like good history. It's not even good history. Like his history, like his uh understanding of history is like he also like pretty much like swept over a whole bunch of events that led up to like what was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Good or bad, it doesn't matter. But it's like you've kind of like missed the whole point of that event there. But then you've like hit all these like points that like lead to today, where it's like, oh, it's just as bad as it was then. It's the same thing. It's like,
So how is it worse? You're allowed to speak. If you know, if it was bad as, you know, back then, you'd be in chains picking cotton, you idiot.
exactly. Just
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like the whole idea of like the 1619 project, you know, taking like, oh, 1619 is like when really America was founded because of slavery. It's like, that's stupid. You know, in 1619, America wasn't even an idea in the heads of, you know, the founding fathers. Founding fathers weren't even around.
yeah, they weren't even
In
alive.
16, they weren't even alive. They weren't even a tickle in their daddy's scrot, you know. Um,
And you had people that was just like they were just trying to escape like the political or
yeah,
the
yeah, hilarious that they can't
religious.
even understand that the reason why, you know, uh, originally it was like Dutch religious like heretics that first, you know, made the crossing over. Before, you know, more like Anglos came started making the trip in the Atlantic. But yeah, they were trying to get away from persecution. They were you know, religious persecution. They were trying to go someplace where they could freely worship. You know, and so in 1619, what was here was still under European monarchies. You know, the Dutch, or, you know, the French, not the French, but, you know, like England even. You know, so really, your dispute is with England, or, you know, or the Dutch, or whatever such European nation. So the idea that America was founded in 1619 is completely absurd and nonsensical.
Yeah, well, and it's that's already like been it's like yeah, even like revisionist historians are like yeah, this is actually garbage. Like they're even saying that like this whole like 1619 project is complete hogwash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, for some odd reason, you know, school boards across the country are still trying to get the curriculum sourced from the 1619 materials is, you know, still going forward. Um,
Thankfully, like in there's been a few states where they had this one where it's like, yeah, we're not allowing this because it's actually like dangerous. So
mhm.
hopefully, like there's maybe some hope. God, like that. Not every state in the union is going to be a complete like dumpster fire when it comes to education.
Mhm.
Although to be honest, I would get rid of the entire public school system altogether. But that's another battle.
Or at the okay, at the very least, I'd get rid of the federal Department of Education.
It's unnecessary.
I know, like the whole point was, like for communities or localities to be in charge of what the children learn, and if say a program in Tennessee was working better than a program in Boise, Idaho, then Boise, Idaho was freely welcome to adopt the plans of God. What was the first city that I mentioned? Was it
Like
Nashville?
as far as like a settlement here in the
No, no, no. What I was talking about, like how locality should be in charge of the education. Um, but like, yeah, if yes, a program in Nashville, Tennessee was doing really well, and us, Boise, Idaho, school system wanted to, implement that plan, then they're free to do so.
yeah.
But not like this top-down federal government was like, okay, everyone has to learn this exact thing. That was the whole thing why I was against, what is it, Common Core.
Oh, that's don't get me started on that. That's I was
Yeah, which
it's
again, which again was was a project pushed by Bill Gates.
that's we'll have to talk about Bill Gates soon because like that guy's like way oh, I'm just a private business owner, blah blah blah. But like he's a little weasel, dude. He's kind of like he is the he's the private sector Dr. Fauci in a lot of ways. He's just like a little weasel that is just kind of because of the money that he has, he like kind of like has his like little tentacles and everything.
Yeah, I mean, like what he bought up all like that farmland, presumably. So like he basically bought it. Trust me, he's not really going to do anything. He's more than likely he's going to have it lay fallow, and so like no one like so that's just to manipulate the food cost.
Yeah.
He has a stake in like what was it? One of the plant-based meat companies like Impossible Meats or something like that. One of those companies. Um, but
He
yeah,
he's an evil man.
yeah, no argument for me. Um, yeah, and suppose and he was he was computer science major, and which he didn't even finish. Like most of the recent CEOs of new tech businesses. He didn't finish college, but then now and then and he developed the operating system for computers, which is great and fantastic because I mean I'm using it right now to do the stream.
Yeah.
But then now he's like giving medical advice, and it's like but then it's like and we're supposedly we have this mentality. It's like, oh well, only knowledgeable people from that field should speak about it. It's like, then why the hell are we taking medical advice from this guy? Talking about vaccines and how like we need to reduce the population of the world, and it's like what
Well,
you
he has been reducing the population of the world. I mean, he's been
yeah, no,
you know
he's the biggest pusher of vaccines in the history of the world. And
yeah.
in his fucking TED talk, he said like, yeah, we could reduce the populations and we could use vaccines to do it. What's that old saying? When someone tells you who they are the first time, believe them.
It's funny. Like there's a game franchise that I really love. It's one of my favorite games, which is called Mass Effect. And this might actually lead into our next topic, anyways, just because. But it's a sci-fi game essentially, and there was this one species of like aliens where they were they're called the Krogan, and they were kind of like
Not the
they were
Kurgans.
yeah, the Krogans. They were introduced to technology like too early.
Mm-hmm.
According to the game, like there was technology that was introduced to them at a point where they ended up like having a lot. They were a very tribal, warring species, and they were introduced all to this advanced technology, and they started producing a lot of wars around the universe, and to help stop the spread of the Krogan, because they were able to reproduce very quickly. They
Mm-hmm.
created this fake this like vaccine slash disease that like caused them to stop producing, called the genophage, and pretty much
Mm-hmm.
it they weren't able to they were no longer able to produce, and so the Krogans were slowly dying out, except for like a few, and the ones that were able to still produce, the females became like this propped up, like they were like holy relics, like the ones that were still able to produce children.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the same thing, right? That's it. I feel like that's what like Bill Gates is doing. It's just kind of he's wanting to give these quote unquote vaccines to these third world countries, and it's like, yeah, we don't want you to produce anymore, so or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bill Gates is an actual eugenicist.
yeah, uh but that's a whole
So yeah.
that's a whole other topic, talking about weasels, like Fauci
Yeah.
and Bill Gates.
Yeah,
To me,
we didn't like kind of deviated and didn't. I don't think we really wrapped up the Clint Eastwood thing. But anyways, yeah, let's move on to the
happy
next
birthday,
thing.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Anyway, the long and short of what we just were talking about. Clint Eastwood is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just on to the next topic, which does tie in. Well, really quickly, interestingly enough, when you were talking about that game and how like they were using vaccines to kind of sterilize the population, one of my favorite sci-fi franchises, Stargate Sg1, they was it?
I love Stargate.
Yeah, but they had this one episode uh, called 2010, and because anyways, it was the year 2010, and SG1, the team that goes to the flagship team, goes and makes contact with this alien race, and they're willing to help them fight their enemies and provide them with all this technology and yada yada yada. Basically the candy store of
Yeah.
aliens, right? And so they do, and the enemy, the goal, the enemy of for SG1 and Earth generally is defeated, and peace, and this new type of federalized kind of United States out into the stars kind of happens. But for some reason, the population isn't growing. And one of the characters, Sam Carter, she and her husband were trying, had their first baby, but they're having problems, conceiving their second. And so, even though these aliens gave like all this technology, and they even gave them like, again, this is the relevant part. They even gave them a medicine, a vaccine, to help them, rid themselves of disease. She went and got tested by, an old friend and doctor, and then she finds out that she's sterile.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so then everything starts kind of unraveling, and they find out that the aliens that they met were that's how they take over they take over a planet, is they do it slowly, they're very patient in that way, kind of similar to a certain left-leaning political group. But they're very patient, and they're willing to play the long game to achieve their goals. And one is, the first move is to reduce the population, and then essentially make them helpless. And I think we're kind of in that stage now in actual life, because with I mean, that's allegedly, this is not confirmed, but them kind of pushing this vaccine, and vaccines in general, especially like Bill Gates pushing vaccines in like the third world. And then also now with how they're heavily politicizing the military, with like that goofy army ad, talking about oh, my two moms and stuff like that.
I double birded when I watched that that video. I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
But now they're trying to make the military less effective, or even or trying to make us look less scary to our enemies.
Our enemies are laughing at us.
Our enemies are laughing at us. Especially with because the Russians, they put out their own recruitment video, and it's fucking badass. It's like, I want to be a Spetsnaz. I think Spetsnaz is like their version of like Navy SEALs. But kind of like in that episode of SG1, where first they came and gave them medicines to help them live longer, and have youth longer, and then secondly they helped them they gave them weapons technology so they can defeat all their enemies, so so they no longer focused on security, so their defenses became weakened. And then the episode, the third step is basically just like take over the planet, and then turn the entire planet into farmland, essentially, so they could send the resources back to their home planet. So I mean,
we've I had to watch that episode again. That was I haven't seen Stargate in a long time.
Right.
So that might be something we should do at some point too.
We should do. It's a lot of episodes, because Stargate is actually one of the longest running sci-fi series in television history. Like over 10 seasons, I believe, or something, or 10 to over 10 seasons.
Yeah.
Take that, Star Trek. But speaking, what was that?
There's been a lot of stuff in the news about the government is releasing a lot of their info on UFOs, and I don't think we've ever talked about this, about do you about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that. Are you? I actually have no idea what you think about any of that stuff. I'm very curious to hear.
Well, as a younger man, I did leave open the possibility to life out there, quote unquote. But as I've gotten older, and I started to really investigate scripture and my own faith, I become a little bit more fundamentalist in my outlook. And I'm almost to the point in just flat out saying there's no such thing as outer space. Did we lose Rob? Stand by. Rob? I think we may have lost him, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand by.
Sorry.
Oh.
No,
Well, because your screen is still frozen, so I don't know, if
No, I had to take a quick pee break.
Okay.
So so as a younger person, you were more like you kind of like there's definitely there could be a possibility.
I left room for the possibility of life or extraterrestrial life. Yeah, but again, as I gotten older and I delved a little bit more into my faith and like scriptures. I've become a little bit more fundamentalist to the point where like I don't even think that outer space actually exists.
So like all like the
Which
planets,
is kind of a weird contradiction because I do enjoy science fiction or science fantasy in the case of Star Wars, but
okay, but you're saying like you don't, and I'm not making funny. I'm trying to understand like your point here.
Mm-hmm.
That so like in the case of like our universe that has like supposedly like 9 planets, right? Including
our solar system, yeah.
Solar system, yeah. You don't think that like outside of like Earth, like that doesn't like you're like it's probably like not true.
I mean, I'm not saying what it is. I'm just saying what I think it isn't.
Okay.
Or like I'm not saying what it is. I'm just like saying I don't know anymore. I'm not comfortable, or at least I'm not comfortable claiming like, oh yeah, those are planets. There is such a thing as like as outer space. Especially if especially if I'm looking through my world through a more biblically fundamental lens.
Okay, I kind of see what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go quite that far, but like as far as the idea of like aliens and all that stuff, like because in the past, there's always been the idea of like UFOs, but it's always been like kind of R&D technology stuff that like we've never seen before, that.
Yeah, and then that and if that's the case, then yeah, I'm fully willing to accept that as as like, yeah, these UFOs, they're really just prototype aircraft or some sort of new technology that the government's working on. Yeah, okay.
And I tend to lean more that direction. As far as like because more and more stuff has been released, and the other thing is like because that's always been kind of the case, like it's usually been something that is explainable eventually, because the stealth bomber, which is still a aircraft that is used today, when that first came out, people were like, what the fuck is that? And then they several years, I think like a decade later, it's like, oh, it's this
right, it got declassified and everyone knows about it.
Exactly, and it's still a really actually pretty awesome aircraft, but
yeah, I mean, what it was made like, I mean, kind of like the B-2 bombers, where it's like it's like it has solid bones, so that's there are B-2 bombers that that served in World War II that are still flying because of like and all they have done is like done like some simple like retrofitting with like newer engines or newer technologies. And yeah, so you could like so you could have like 3 generations of family members who served flying this in the same B-2 bomber.
Yeah. But no, but there's always been like special aircraft. I mean, the government is always doing something.
Right.
People are always doing something to like trying to get gain an advantage on someone else. And so it makes sense that there's a lot of these UFOs. It's just technology that we haven't seen before. That is now like someone's experimenting with something, and we might find out 10 years from now or 20, or who knows how long this technology that's coming out. Now obviously, like a lot of people, when I was younger too, I was always fascinated by and like sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. I love sci-fi games like Mass Effect. You're exploring all these crazy different planets and different alien races, and a lot of my favorite movies are sci-fi movies.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like in reality, I don't think that because that's one of the things like we've supposedly explored like the moon, we've explored Mars slightly, and everyone's like, oh, we're gonna find some sort of alien, some sort of signs of life or signs of something. And it's like, but the more that we explore, it's like, no, we're not finding anything. And I really think that I don't think that we'll ever really find anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not our lifetime, definitely. Um, but I don't think that you know I don't think the UFOs that we're seeing like in these cameras, like I just think it's R&D technology that we just don't understand yet. Or that the whatever hasn't been like released to the public, so that we can really like understand it. And in a lot of ways, I think it's more of you know, people put a tinfoil hat on me, but it could be like, why now all of a sudden is the government releasing all this information? To me, it just feels like more of a psyop where it's like, yeah, we're kind of fucking up in a lot of things. So here's some UFOs to pacify you, pacify the public. Give them something else to think about. But a lot of people are just like, whatever. Kind of like yawning about it. It's like, oh, there was a whole like
Oh
couple
yeah, I
things.
mean, if you just so you remember, your screen is frozen, and if you try to do gestures, no one's seeing it.
Oh, well, it's like everyone's kind of like meh, or yawning at the sake
Yeah.
of
I mean, unless you want me to try, like, unless you want to try and hanging up and getting you back.
nah, it's okay. Like
Okay.
we'll stick with what we got.
All
But no,
right.
it's kind of like uh, like in The Simpsons, like meh. It's like no one cares. Like it's kind of which for like there was a good like 10 even 20 years ago, man, it's like, oh, the government's holding back. Like, there's this alien technology, and like aliens exist, man. The truth is out there. And now people are just like, fuck yeah, I don't give a shit.
Well, yeah. Because here's the thing. Like, if this information was released like 20 years ago, everyone would like be losing their collective minds, and all of like the UFO conspiracy theory people would be like, I told you, I told you. But because I think it's because what I honestly think is why they're releasing this information now is because they're losing so much of the control that they once had, that they need something to, like, it's kind of like the idea of bread and circuses. Usually it's more of like entertainment based, but because there's no bread and circuses, they have to kind of create their own crappy versions of bread and circuses, which is this UFO thing. And so they're desperate. I think because they're fucking up so much, with like the economy, and with with coronavirus, and and
I mean, we're bringing back the '70s.
yeah, and like the energy crisis and things like that. Like, too much attention is being put on on the government right now. Like, initially that's what they wanted. They wanted all the attention. They wanted the limelight, so to speak. But now, like, now that they've got it, it's like, oh shit, people are people seeing that we can't, like, that we fucked up. And so now they throw out this like red meat to like try and get people to be like, oh, well, like aliens, look UFOs. See, they're admitting it. We're admitting it. Like, go investigate that. Go investigate that. But like, no one cares, because it's like, who cares if there's if there are UFOs, quote unquote. When I have to pay like $15 for bread, or I have to pay like $100 for a tank of gas. So yeah, this is just an desperate ploy to get like some of the attention off them, but it's not working. Because they fuck things up so bad that, like, that all we can do is focus on what they're fucking up.
So
but also really quickly, it's interesting though that they're not admitting to alien life. They're just admitting to unidentified flying objects.
right, right. That's I wanted. I
So
did want to point
yeah.
that out where it's like that's what I'm saying. It's like more than likely it's it's not alien technology. It's R&D technology. It's stuff that like we just don't. Like I said, when the stealth bomber was being made and they were doing tests, like people had no idea what the fuck that was, and they thought like, oh, this is an alien craft. No, it wasn't. It was something that like the government was working on, and they weren't. Obviously, it wasn't released to the public in any way. Um,
Mm.
so it's it. That's what I think. I feel like in like another 10 years, we'll see like what it was that was being worked on. But
Mm.
I kind of getting away from that a little bit. Do you think that there's like any sort of like alien life out there at all?
No.
No, and
No.
I would agree with you in that. Just because of all the exploration that's been done
Mm-hmm.
um, has brought pretty much nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's like, oh, we're gonna it's kind of like when I connect these two a little bit where when the Dead Sea Scrolls were uncovered in the back in the early 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, I mean, people were licking their chops like, oh, here we go. We're finally gonna like show how the Bible is, it's been manipulated, it's been changed over centuries, all this stuff, and it's like, and these are the oldest known living copies of the original, of the autographs, or when it comes to the Bible, and because the Dead Sea Scrolls are like it's like a like 50 years to a century after the originals were written. And
Mm.
so, pretty damn close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, we're going to see how it's been manipulated over, millennia.
Yeah.
And
Really, yeah.
the, when in reality, it came to, where it's like 99.7%, like, the same. And
Mm-hmm.
there's only like some like, typos essentially.
Right.
Um,
Or like one or two apocrypha books, like the Book of Philip, or yada
yeah,
yada yada.
it's not like we're like, oh, in our Bible Christ died, but in the Dead Sea Scrolls Christ was never crucified. You know,
Yeah, Christ, yeah. Christ bent the knee, and then he lived his life. He lived the rest of his life with Mary Magdalene.
all this, the Scorsese, all of the Scorsese film.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Allah, the Last Temptation of Christ.
exactly. But no, but it's the same thing when it comes to like space travel. As we have these like drones and satellites that are going to like Mars and these other planets. Like, oh, we're finally obviously we're gonna find something, and they're finding fucking zilch. They're finding nothing, and I think that's gonna be the case. Like, and don't get me wrong. I think when I look at like some of the imagery that's captured, to me, I find it fascinating because like it's beautiful, and I just see, I see God's creation, and it's one of those things that points to His greatness and like His majesty and like His attention to like detail.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're not gonna like see. We're not gonna have like other forms of life, but it's something that we can look to. It's like, wow, that's like all looking at all these like different nebulas and stars and whatever, like it's like, wow, that's really beautiful. um and like I said, sci-fi is like one of my favorite things. I like one of my favorite games is No Man's Sky, where like the point is like it's space exploration. There's 18 quintillion planets that you can explore, that and it's fascinating. But
Mm.
to be honest, like that's not real life. There's not like all these like alien races and like in Mass Effect or like all these other like movies that we watch.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's a fascinating story, but it's not reality.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I was just kind of curious, like, what your thoughts were, because I don't think we've ever talked about it, and obviously this is kind of
Yeah.
in the at the
Well, I
moment.
mean, I don't believe we went to the moon, so I don't even believe that we're actually on Mars right now. So,
I won't go that far, but like I understand where
Rob,
you're.
come on, dude. Like, if they said that we can't even go back to the moon, what makes you think that
No,
we're on
I'm not
Mars?
saying I'm not saying that I think that you're wrong. I'm not saying
Hmm.
that.
Okay, I know.
I haven't quite gone that far yet in
It's
what you're saying.
I mean, honestly, it's not that hard to get to. It's especially with kind of like, I know I don't have evidence, but like kind of the logic tests that I presented, was specifically about the moon landing stuff.
You raise a lot of good questions, and I can't to be honest, I can't answer those questions, and they're good questions. But see, like for me, I'm like, you know what? That's a good question. Like, and I think that deserves some like looking into. Or some people's like, "What, are you fucking crazy?" And like they get like so upset, like because you're asking a question.
Mm.
That's where I'm
Right,
like,
but it's like
okay,
they can't even refute what I'm asking.
exactly.
With
That's where I'm like,
that exactly. So that's what makes me doubt. That's what makes me doubt.
well, we're the same in that sense. We're like, okay, that gets my antenna raised. Like where you have all these experts, like when you start to ask those questions,
Hmm.
like you're not coming at it where it's like in a mean way. It's like, okay, we have there's this problem. This is what this expert has said, and so like how is that possible? And they're like, oh, are you one of those tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists? It's like, okay, you've already failed. The
Yeah,
computer.
yeah, exactly. You already lost. Like you, by you, like ad homineting me, you've lost.
Yeah, it's like I'm just asking the question. Like I don't know the answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to.
it's no different than like when someone like may doubt the like the death of Jesus or the divinity of Jesus or just or Christianity in general. It's like I don't get mad at them. It's like, yeah, have your questions and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And then after that, it's up on you to wrestle with what answers I did give you and see if they pass if they pass the snip test.
exactly. That's and because I don't get mad like when people like think that my faith is stupid.
Hmm.
Okay, like I mean, but if you have questions, I'm gonna answer them to the best of my ability. But I'm not like you. What do you hate Christians? Oh, you're
Like, you're
terrible.
going to hell.
Yeah, no, no. It's like to be honest, I completely understand. I was in that spot with you, like at an earlier time,
Hmm.
and but yeah, it's the same thing with this, where it's like when you ask questions about that, and you're trying to like there's some anomalies where it's like you want to get them answered, but then people like get so ruffled up where it's like Jesus Christ, dude, just I'm not challenge I'm not saying that you're a terrible person. Just I just want to. There's a few things that like are kind of like weird here. Like, can you have an answer for that? You know,
Precisely.
yeah,
But yes.
yeah. But I was just curious. Like, it's in the news. I
Hmm.
wasn't sure what you thought about it. Um, I'm not really sure what I think about it. Sci-fi is still like one of my favorite genres.
Yeah,
I
same
think
here.
I think I will always love sci-fi. Some of my favorite, some of my favorite games are like sci-fi games, like Mass Effect, No Man's Sky, and the idea of it is like fascinating, but the reality is obviously like something very different.
Hmm.
So it's, but I think it's all a psyop in some ways, and a lot of the
Oh
stuff
yeah,
that we're
100% it is.
And a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, it's R&D technology, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, safe, because again, they haven't admitted like, oh yeah, these are aliens. They're just saying these are UFOs. This is merely a distraction so that we get our minds off of their constant fuck ups. But again, their fuck ups are so bad that we don't care about them and the federal government admitting to UFOs.
And part of me here, and here's another thing that part of me is thinking too, is that in the past, like when it's people have seen quote unquote UFOs. To
Mm-hmm.
me, I thought that was American technology that people were seeing. I'm thinking like this might not necessarily be our technology that we're seeing,
Mm.
and that's why like it's also being released.
Oh, because so what you're saying that they're trying to out some other country?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I don't. I can't prove that. I'm just saying it's like there was years and decades like where we have been on top, and so
Mm-hmm.
obviously like, the U.S. government is not going to be like, well, we're not going to share that information. Like you're a fucking crackpot, and it's like turning these people into they're just a country bumpkin. They don't know anything. But then when it comes to like now, like it's one of those things where it's like we're not necessary. I'm not saying that we're weak. We're still a strong country, but we're not like the sole like number one. We're like 1A, where we have like some other countries that are like 1B or C.
Yeah,
And
no, I mean our position has definitely become compromised.
bingo, yeah,
Um, I mean, especially since we basically gave away our strength. Our economy. We outsource all of our work. Nothing really is made in, or at least not nothing is wholly made, within our borders. Um, we've allowed foreign entities to hijack our culture, a la the movie industry. Um, what else?
every genre.
Academia too. Again, we've allowed for the infiltration of foreign actors, or at least the allowing of the compromising of our academics. Uh,
I will say, like, because I always tend to defend Richard Nixon a little bit because I don't really think that he did really anything all that wrong. The one thing that I think that he did that was like kind of like fucked things up was when he like kind of when he kind of got close to China
right.
and
Yeah,
like
he's
brought
the
them.
one that opened up relations with China.
Yeah, because
Business relations. Business relations.
they were dead in the water until that happened.
Right. Well, yeah, and I give him a little credit because I understand what he was trying to do, is that he was trying to do what China is doing to us now.
Yeah,
In that the idea was to bring China into the economic arena, to make them equals in terms of the economic world, and then thereby bringing in more Western ideas, about like capitalism, and and
and
free and
trying
open and
away
free and fair markets and things like that.
and trying to draw them away from the sway of the Soviet Union, but
Yes,
it was a complete fail.
exactly. It's a complete fail. But they're doing to us what we tried to do to them.
Yep.
Uh, and they're winning. Let's just be honest about it. They're winning.
Oh,
Um,
100%. When you have like guys like LeBron James and John Cena who are like bowing at the cock of China,
yeah.
it's like it.
But remember, I give John Cena the credit that he didn't at least finish them off.
Yes, he did. That's true.
You know,
He
because
tried
he
to.
didn't because he didn't say that Taiwan was a part of China. He just said like, oh, I misspoke, and said that Taiwan was a country when they're not. But and he stopped right there. He didn't say like, oh yeah, everyone knows that Taiwan is a part of China. He didn't say that. But it's stupid because he ended up pissing up both sides, because because China didn't get their happy ending, and then Taiwan was disrespected by saying that they weren't a country.
So pretty much that, like, what David has always been saying, our friend David, friend of the podcast, who's always been saying, is like John Cena's the tool. Yeah, he pretty much was a tool. Like,
he's a
it's
tool.
like he satisfies nobody.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's a $3 prostitute. He satisfies nobody.
God, I hope he's watching. I hope he's like laughing his ass off.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well, why don't we get to our movie review? Let's have some more fun.
All right, yeah, let's wrap things up with our movie review. Let me get the synopsis ready. All right, here we go. Yes, and to remind you folks, the review for tonight is the movie The Professionals, starring Lee Marvin. Here's the synopsis. 4 soldiers of fortune are hired by a wealthy rancher to rescue his beautiful young wife who has been kidnapped by a villainous Mexican bandit. When they finally find her, after fighting their way across deserts and mountains, they discover she is not being held against her will. This causes friction within the band as to whether they should honor their agreement.
I want to, so this is a movie that I've been wanting you to watch for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it probably about like a half dozen times now.
Mm-hmm.
And because when we were doing our Western theme back in, what was that, January or February, I watched like, God, I probably watched a dozen or more Westerns.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to, because I hadn't like watched a lot of them in a while, and so I kind of wanted to get, kind of get an understanding of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we only had like 4 to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And for the movie reviews, and when I watched the Professionals, I was like, oh, this is definitely, I feel like the ones that we chose were great.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, I watched The Professionals, like, oh, fuck, I wish we had put this one in instead. And when we decided to do a Leftovers month, I was like, oh, good, we can do The Professionals. And so I'm very curious of your thoughts on it, because I love this movie. It's my second favorite Western.
Yeah, no. I really enjoyed this movie. I think for the most part, for the writing, the dialogue was fantastic in this.
Spectacular.
Yeah, it was just so great. And I'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later. But in terms of the story and kind of like the twist where it's like, oh, she wasn't kidnapped. She willingly went with this bandit guy. I mean, I don't know why I didn't see it, but it genuinely surprised me.
Yeah, it was a huge twist in the movie where they're hot, the gang is hired by this very wealthy magnate, and he's trying to get his wife back. And so he hires like the best of these, like, kind of like soldiers of fortune, if you will. And Lee Marvin is the leader of the group, who, I find it funny that both of my favorite Westerns have Lee Marvin in them. So maybe there's a reason why they're my favorites. But no, so they're hired by this guy, and they're trying to get his wife back, and it's a very treacherous journey. And when it comes to like where they discover the where the wife is at, and the twist is like, as they're going along, like, you can tell like something's like not, the character played by Burt Lancaster, he can always tell like something's not quite right here. Like he was kind of on it from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
He was in it for the adventure,
Mm-hmm.
and when they were in the kind of like that Dirty Dozen esque like final scene, or one of
Mm-hmm.
the like in the Dirty Dozen, like when they're attacking the bandits' village,
Mm-hmm.
and they discover that like, oh, the kidnapped woman is actually like in love, and kind of looks like she willingly went with the bandit that had been friends with, that they had fought in
Right. I
the
think, yeah, and I like that little complication for Lee Marvin and Burt Lancaster's character, where they had a personal connection to the situation in the form that they had both ridden with the bandit, the bad guy, during the what's his face?
with Pancho Villa and the
Yeah,
Mexican Revolution.
exactly. Yeah, you know, and that was like, and I'm sure, and that was part of the reason why the wealthy man came and hired Lee Marvin's character because of his close ties to him, like kind of having like that inside knowledge about him.
So
Um,
there's that, and then it's like where you see the Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin. They're in the house, and they see like, oh well, the girl played by uh, Claudia Cardinal. I forget her name.
Hold on.
Who is quite a
Yeah,
fox, by the way.
yeah. Claudia Cardinal. Yeah,
And
Casey Slice for sure.
and another Mexican played by a white guy, Jack Palance.
Yeah.
Uh, who they're like, and Burt Lancaster's character is like, dude, we've been had. It's like,
Yeah.
because they're pretty much there like watching them like fuck, and it's like, I think we've been had. Something's not quite right here. But it's like kind of like Lee Marvin's like, well, we still got to do the job. We gave our word. We're gonna do this job, and so that it kind of goes from there. But I have to say, like, the dialogue and the story is just so good in this movie. I think all the characters are very compelling. Even the quote unquote bad guys, they're very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a struggle. There is redemption in some of the ways of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm just this movie is so good in a
Mm.
lot of what were some of your like did you have like a favorite moment or a favorite line or something that like you just really stood out to you or was like, wow, this is a great movie.
Let's see. Um, what was it? I think like kind of like the last stand with that Burt Lancaster's character does to give the group more time to escape. I thought that was really well executed.
Yes.
Because you have like you have what's his Jesus Jesus Raza played by Jack Palance. Um, they're in like this kind of they're in this kind of canyonous area, and it's kind of a game of cat and mouse, and they kind of reminisce about like the old times. While one is trying to evade and one is trying to kill the other. I thought that was a really well done scene, especially like the emotional like depth particularly like one of like the kind of lieutenants. It was a woman. I forget what her. Wait, let me see what her character's name was.
Chichi Rodriguez.
That's right, Chichi Raju. Yeah, or yeah. And so like you obviously can tell that them two had a past because like when Burt Lancaster character calls her baby, she's like, oh baby. So I haven't heard that in a long time, and it's like she had you could tell that she has fond memories of Burt Lancaster's characters from the past.
Yeah.
But then when she subsequently dies, you actually feel like a little you feel the heartache for Burt Lancaster because he was put in like this impossible position where it's like here's this woman that he still kind of has feelings for, but he has to decide him or her.
Yeah, well, it's also, I think, like, not only like him or her, but I feel like he does have a sense of duty as well, and he knows, like, they're not on the same side anymore, and he has a job to do, and he's gonna do it.
Right. Oh, and yeah, just like when they do find out that it was like kind of they were hired under false pretenses, and Burt Lancaster's character was about the book. Lee Marvin reminds them, it's like, hey, you gave me your word, or you gave your word, and it's like, oh, I didn't give my word to him. It's like, and then Lee Marvin like responds to him, no, but you gave it to me.
Yeah,
Which
it's one of those great lines. So what makes the movie so great? The writing,
yeah,
fantastic. And I was like, damn, dude, like that's like a gut punch. Like that is a great line.
Right, yeah, because it's like it speaks of it to a bygone era where it's like a man's word was his everything, and it's like a man's reputation will follow him and go before him,
exactly.
and so back then, like if you reneged on something, people are gonna find out about this. So like people, so like your reputation will follow you and will go ahead of you.
I mean, they specifically broke him out of prison because Lee Marvin's character wanted him on this job.
Right. He was kind of like he was kind of like the ace up their sleeve, or like how he described it as an equalizer because he was an explosives expert.
Exactly. Yeah. And but he's also someone that he trusted.
Right. Yeah. Again, like they worked together, back in the day, Pancha Villa days, and I thought that was a great. I love their relationship because they were two guys who have been through shit together, and now like they're going through shit one more time, and Lee Marvin is trying to. In a weird way, Lee Marvin is trying to redeem Burt Lancaster's character.
Yeah.
But in an interesting way, Burt Lancaster's character is kind of like the voice of doubt for Lee Marvin's character. He's like, why are we doing this job? He essentially lied to us, or like sometimes when Lee Marvin was kind of not so sure about a course of action, Burt Lancaster's character would come in and kind of like reassure him. So their relationship I really liked.
No, the chemistry between those two is fantastic. I really liked how those two interacted with each other. I mean, the main cast, you have Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, Willie Strode,
Woody Strode,
and who was the other guy?
Robert Ryan, I believe.
Yeah, Robert Ryan. He was in The Wild Bunch, which is also a great western. But he was, the chemistry between the four of those guys was actually really good. And God, I mean, I can't speak it highly enough of this movie. That I think, to be honest, I think everyone should watch this. And yeah, like I said, the dialogue is great. Like one of my favorite lines is the last line of the movie
Yeah, it's
where
kind of a zinger. It's kind of a zinger.
yeah, and everything culminates like where it's where the guy is like the guy that hired them, who is actually in reality the bad guy of the movie, and he says like you're a bastard. It's like it's like where Lee Marvin, he's like, oh well, that was mine was an accident from birth. You're a self-made man. Burn. It's like
Yeah.
God
Yeah, and then
damn.
and as soon as he delivers that line, he's like, off into the sunset.
I
Um,
laughed my ass off when I heard that when I first saw that when I first saw the movie, when I heard that line, I
mhm,
was like, that's fucking amazing. I laughed my ass off. That's a great line.
yeah, really great writing in this movie. To be for sure.
This is some of the out of a lot of definitely out of the westerns, like this is some of the best dialogue I I've seen.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, because some of the dialogue that from the westerns that we saw, it felt a little stilted, um,
Yeah.
and a little wooden. But the way the lines were delivered, and especially that zinger at the end by Lee Marvin, it's like, oh, so perfect.
Yeah, and God, I wish that like this movie had won an Academy Award for like screen at least the screenplay,
Yeah, for
because
writing or something.
the dialogue was amazing.
Mm.
All the characters had great lines. They delivered them in a spectacular fashion.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it makes you wish that, and I had to go back and I hope they were at least nominated. I don't know if they were or not, but
Hmm.
uh, they definitely deserve to at least be nominated.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, did you enjoy this movie, Andy? Like, was this something that like, oh man, I hope to watch this again someday?
Yes, of course. Yes, this movie. Yes, I think I will be seeing it. I think I will watch it again just for entertainment purposes. And maybe I'll even show it to my dad because my dad is weird because he likes westerns, particularly like the old
I love
westerns. Although to me, I would argue that this isn't. There are a lot of western elements, but I wouldn't strictly classify this movie as a western.
Okay, you're right. I would say this is like a sub genre of a western. Like
Mm.
it's not like your classic western like let's a la The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. This is the I would say the contemporary film of this would be like The Wild Bunch, where it's
Hmm.
a kind of like a modernish western, where it's set in like the very early 20th century, and where like the idea of the Wild West is becoming a thing of the past, and
Mm.
the characters who have played a part in being in the Wild West, they have to deal with like the modernization of the world.
Right,
That's
because in this movie, even though it was like kind of took place in the West, but the West is has definitely become more civilized, and there are actually like cars, and yeah, they rode horses, but there were still cars, and steam shovels and the steam engine, and kind of like modern conveniences.
so I would recommend if I was gonna recommend something, if you're gonna watch this with your dad, I would recommend watching this movie along with The Wild Bunch,
Mm.
because
Uh,
those two movies are contemporaries of one another. And
hmm.
actually, they wanted when they were creating the movie The Wild Bunch, they wanted Lee Marvin to be one of the characters, because like I just did The Professionals, like it's the same. It's
It's the same
almost
movie, yeah.
exactly. Now Robert Ryan is in both movies, however.
Mm.
So, but I would if you're gonna watch one of them with your dad, watch both of them, because I think he's gonna like both.
Okay. Yeah. Here are all the nominations for the professionals. Academy Award for Best Directing, Academy Award for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Academy Award for Best Cinematography. I'd agree with that. Golden Globe Award, Best Nomination, Best Motion Picture. Golden Globe Award for Best New Star of the Year, Actress. Probably for
Yeah.
the heroine of the movie.
Yeah.
Directors Guild of America Award for Outstanding Directing, Feature Film. Writers Guild of America Award for Best Written Drama. It says nomination, so I don't think it won anything.
But hey, it was nominated at least. So
yeah, it's an honor just to be nominated.
Now, who is the director of this film? I'm drawing a blank on that right now.
Richard Brooks.
Okay, yeah, yeah, he did a great job.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely watch this with your dad. I'd like to hear like what he has to say about it. Maybe he's, I don't know.
Maybe. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I have nothing else that I want to add. So.
I just I'm so happy that we got to watch this movie.
I know you are. All right then. If we have. What was that?
I was just saying, why don't you give your rating and like?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's give our ratings and wrap this bitch up. I'm gonna give this a solid 4.
Ooh.
A solid 4. And again, usually when I deduct something, or if I don't give it any a stout like more if I don't give it a 5, I'm taking things off, it's because of technical reasons. But yeah, this is a solid 4.
Is there what would be like one thing that you say that would have stained it from being like a 5-star? Like what's you have like one thing in mind that like kind of bothered you?
I just think there would well, maybe it didn't have to, but I would have liked a little bit more characterization for the Jesus Raza character.
Okay, I could see that.
Because we kept being told that Lee Marvin and Richard Burton's character. I mean, we get a little bit of it towards the end, when Burt Lancaster is holding them off, but maybe like a little bit of him being a little kind of like the perspective of, say, the wealthy husband. And so, he's a murderer, and he's all these bad things. Like, maybe getting a little, maybe they could have done like a little hint at it, like kind of like a fake out, but it's just like him, taking, kind of handling, that wealthy guy's men, and have like the group witness that and be like, oh man, he really is all those things that he said. But maybe just like a little bit more characterization for the Jesus Raza character.
I see. Okay.
And yeah, that's really the only thing I'm knocking it for.
Me, I gotta give this movie a 5 stars just because.
Okay.
I do agree with you. You're right. I would like to have seen a little bit more on Jesus Raza.
Mm-hmm.
But god damn, the dialogue is so good. The character, I mean,
we did kind of get that, but yeah, I was still. I mean, I guess we did kind of get that when he attacked the Mexican government shipment of weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of got that ruthlessness to him, but I think I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more.
But he's he's not like your typical bad guy. Like, he's actually
right.
He's not a bad guy. He's an anti-hero in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like the Wreck-It Ralph. Like, just because you're a bad guy doesn't make you bad guy.
Exactly.
Um,
And but, like, the dialogue is good in this movie. The
mhm,
casting is great. The
mhm.
cinematography is great. You feel the struggle of all the characters,
Right, like
and
when they're in the desert and they're like, being, and they're just, being pounded by that brutal sun, like you feel it.
God, I mean,
Um,
I felt I was sweating watching the movie. That's
yeah,
how,
and
like,
like and just like and being like being covered in dust, like you could almost tactilely like feel the dust, on yourself when they like kind of clear the dust off their jackets or whatever.
yeah. So it's a great movie. I cannot recommend this movie enough. It's my second favorite Western. It's a great, great, great movie. I hope
Mm.
I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. Okay, there you have it. That's our review for The Professionals. Robert gives it a 5. I give it a 4. Would definitely recommend this movie. Um, if you just want to watch a good story and that's acted well, and the act it hits all the marks. It makes you feel all the feels. Do yourself a favor and check this movie out. All right.
Next week's gonna be a good movie too. Next, another one of my recommendations. It's gonna
What was that?
be. Well, I'm saying, like, next week's gonna be a great movie too. It's one of my it's one of the ones that I recommended for the month,
Mm.
and I cannot wait to talk about it.
All right. Yep. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the show for you tonight. I hope you had fun. I had fun. I mean, despite all the technical difficulties. Um, I'm sure Robert had a blast.
Dude, I had a great time despite all the technical difficulties, which were not my fault.
Yes. Well, they were certainly not my fault because it's my show, and nothing's ever my fault on my show. But yeah, I hope you guys weren't put off too much by the technical difficulties, and hope and I'll go back and maybe because hopefully everything is still was being still recorded, so maybe I could just put like the entire like uninterrupted recording up in place of the 3 individual clips.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens after everything gets processed and archived. But yeah, that will do it for us tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Come back next week. Don't forget to check out the library of other content we have: the Circular Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's Gaming Show Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us, and we'll do it all again next week. Take care.
Sounds like me, Andy.